Well, things have certainly changed in the Project 2020 landscape since the last time we talked. Part two of investing in Project 2020 was focused on the meteoric rise that brought the values skyrocketing over the span of a short weekend. And we are well far removed from that at this point, as you probably well know, and you may not know. So we'll do a quick recap. When Project 2020 first released, it was a slow start. A lot of the early cards went without relative notice until people began to catch on and the values of the early cards began to rise and began to rise and began to rise. And as print runs ran up, the shorter printed cards values skyrocketed in short order to a massive, massive magnitude. I mean, we're talking to the thousands of percents of profit differential from the $20 card. And then in pretty short order, as print runs began to skyrocket, the values of even the shorter printed cards began to fall. And that is where we stand now after just a couple weeks from a massive fallout from huge top values. We are probably nearing the bottom of the valley of the worth of Project 2020 cards. And so wanted to spend some time with you and really get into what I think is the current state of the market. And if you are looking to invest in Project 2020, what your outlook will likely be. From a personal perspective, I've been open with you guys and honest in terms of my holding. I still hold about 100 Project 2020 cards. I have cashed out to about an equal value to my buy-in. And I cashed out at the peak with really only 6 or 7 cards to pull in about $2,500 to about $3,000 after some fees, probably closer to $2,500. So, and pretty close to my initial investment, I think, of about $2,700. But I currently have pretty much all of my cards in my possession. And to be honest, when I look back at the peak of the selling, sometimes I wish I had sold more. But the marketplace, and especially people who sell on eBay, have had massive issues with people forging returns on their cards, claiming damage was done because the prices have dropped so steeply, and it seems like a massive headache. And so honestly, part of me is happy I didn't sell, but I spoke about it in my previous video. At one point, I had a suggested or a potential profit of nearly $50,000 in the cards that I have. That is down to about the time of this video at about $8,000. So my portfolio of Project 2020 has dropped $42,000 in just the short span of about 3 or 4 weeks. Now, if you had asked me what I thought about an $8,000 return on Project 20 when I first started collecting, I would have been through the roof. I mentioned in earlier videos, I thought I'd be holding on to these cards for quite some time. And the fact that I was able to move less than 10 cards and net about a $3,000 return is incredible, and literally paid for the rest of my entire set of cards, which is great. So we're going to go through two things really, which is if you have a lot of cards, what do you do? What is your strategy going forward? And on the other side, if you haven't yet gotten into Project 2020, what's the plan and what are some of the abilities to take advantage of this really strange market right now? Let's start with if you have a lot of cards, because I think some of the people that have watched this video obviously are pretty well invested. So I'm going to walk you through what my strategy is. Your strategy may vary. Right now, I am holding most of my cards. I may sell some of the cards that I have a lot of just to pull back some profits, but we're so close, I believe, to the bottom that I think there's only up to go. And again, this set I think will ebb and flow through the 400 card collection as these cards begin to come out. But I don't think that when the 400th card comes out, that means that this set is locked off. And I have some patience. I could cash in and panic and take that 8,000. I don't at all expect it to get back up to the 50,000 where it was, but I still think there's some room. I'm just not convinced that the current prices are where this will actually sit long term. So I may hedge my bet there, may try to pull back a couple grand more in profits and then sit on the rest, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm really just keeping a daily eye on the market. And I think that's the important thing to do, is to continue to stay on top of it. It was easy to stay on top of it when there was a lot of money involved and when it was going up and up and up, but you really even have to stay on top of it as it goes down, because you really got to set a point that for you, you cut your losses. Again, you're not really cutting your losses. You're just cutting your profits. Sometimes you have to realize that value no matter what time it is. It's hard to pick the perfect time to sell. So could this be the perfect time to sell for you? It could. These cards could continue to go down. I just don't see that happening. Now, on the other side, if you're looking to get into the market, I think it's a pretty interesting time. And I think there's some indicators as to why this may be the move going forward, is to going back and buying some of those shorter printed cards that have shrunk in value. And I'll give you two excellent examples. Steel City Collectibles, just a week ago, put out basically an APB of, hey, if you have cards, here's our set list of values, send them to us, we'll pay you. That to me says there's some smart people in a room somewhere that think there's some long-term value in holding these cards in bulk at the prices that they're currently at. And if they're so inclined to do it as one of the biggest distributors in the hobby, I may be inclined to do that as well, at least holding on to what I have. But if you're new getting in, look at some of those shorter printed cards and say to yourself, can this value go up? If people are trying to complete a set, how many people are going to need this card? It's going to be a decent amount for some of those shorter printed cards. So if you can get it for under $100, I think it's worth considering. And then another one is the Sports Card Investor was a hot topic through the demise of this, as he kind of put out a hit piece on these. But then he came back 2 weeks ago and said, hey, at the 2 weeks later after his initial video, and said, at the prices they are now, I might suggest picking some of these up. So some of the people in the room that kind of know what they're talking about are starting to suggest this might be a time to pick some up. And so I am probably not going to, because I'm already so well invested in a lot of the early cards. But if you're not and you want to potentially get in, I would just go look at the print runs and look at the values on eBay and find a number you're comfortable with. Whether that be, say, hey, I'm going to wait till it goes down $10 more and then pick some up. I think that's what I would do. I would also warn you guys about some of the artist autos that are coming out. I have one of them. I have one of the Gregory Sif autos. At the time, I purchased it at the peak, and I think at the time it was, to me, a great value because it was only about $100 over the current price of what the base card was selling for. But unless you're collecting, I think these can be a trap investment-wise because they are running pretty expensive. I think it's great to support the artist because this goes directly into the artist's pocket. That's why I was happy to do that for Sif, because I've become a big fan of his artwork. But I would just be careful. It can be, they're limited runs. It can be tempting, but I think the value on those may not be what you're expecting, and you may be overpaying for them. But if you are collecting, I think they're great collector's items. And again, I have to say I love the ability to go support those artists in what they're doing. So guys, that is the rocky road that is Topps Project 2020. I'll continue to do more updates here as they come. I apologize. It took me a while to do this one. It was just, the market was, I wasn't quite sure where it was going. I didn't want to come out and give some advice until I really kind of had a better picture of what I was going to do myself with the cards that I'm holding. So I hope this has helped. Let me know what you're holding down below. I'm interested to see what your strategies are going forward, whether you have the cards or don't. I really want to know what you're doing. It's been a great community. I think a lot of people are bonded together through this. For a guy who's really, I'm really interested in the monetary game and the flipping and the finding value and the cracks. This set has really kind of brought me back to a collector's mindset. And I know this video is about investing, but it's really kind of brought out the collector in me. And there's cards that, even though these new releases that have come out, which are not great value at the time because the print runs are too high, I still am buying a handful of them because I've become attached to the artists and I really want to add them to my collection. So it's been a fun ride, even though it's been crazy. Hope you guys aren't stressing out too much about it. Would appreciate a like, a follow, and subscribe. As always, helps me in what I'm doing here. I'm Ed Cahill for Cahill Cards. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.